Everything you think you know about the Titanic's heroism is actually incomplete. You've been ignoring the most heartbreaking victims of the disaster for over 100 years. While the band played on and millionaires fought for seats, 12 loyal passengers were trapped in the dark on F deck. But here is the part that doesn't add up. In the middle of the deadliest maritime disaster in history, 3 dogs managed to escape on lifeboats, while women and children were left behind. How did they cheat death when so many humans couldn't? The secret behind their survival, and the millionaire who chose to freeze to death rather than leave her dog, reveals a dark truth about that night that history books usually skip. The 12 four-legged passengers. You've probably heard about the 2,200 passengers aboard the Titanic. But did you know there were 12 other souls on board that history often forgets? I'm talking about the dogs. These weren't just stray animals. They were the pampered companions of the wealthiest people on Earth. We are talking about French bulldogs, Pekingese, and Great Danes that had their own insurance policies. It's fascinating, and honestly a bit unsettling, when you realize that some of these pets had tickets that cost more than a third-class passenger's entire life savings. It really puts the wealth gap of 1912 into perspective. According to manifest records from the White Star Line, there were at least 12 confirmed dogs on board, though historians speculate there could have been more unregistered pets in the cabins. But here's the uncomfortable question that keeps me up at night. When the ship hits the iceberg and there aren't enough lifeboats for the humans, what happens to the dogs? You might think you know the answer, but the reality is far more complicated and heartbreaking than you can imagine. Luxury life inside the kennels. Before the tragedy struck, life for these dogs was honestly better than what most humans experienced in 1912. The Titanic was equipped with a state-of-the-art kennel on F deck. It was designed to be the ultimate luxury experience for pets. Imagine a floating palace where the dogs were walked daily by crew members on the poop deck, parading around like little celebrities. I honestly think it's kind of sweet, seeing how much these people loved their animals. It shows that even the stoic Victorians had a soft spot for their furry friends. Eyewitness accounts from surviving crew members described an informal dog show that had been scheduled for April 15th, the very day the ship sank. It's a chilling detail, isn't it? They were planning a celebration while steaming toward disaster. But this luxury was actually a trap. Because when you are locked in a kennel on F deck, deep inside the ship, you are the furthest thing from safety when the water starts rushing in. And this is where the story shifts from a cute anecdote to a nightmare. The 3. Who escaped alive? Out of the 12 confirmed dogs, only 3 survived. And here is the brutal truth. Size mattered. The survivors were 2 Pomeranians and 1 Pekingese. Why? Because they were small enough to be hidden. One of the survivors was Lady, a Pomeranian owned by Margaret Hayes. She wrapped Lady in a blanket, and people likely assumed it was a baby. It's a brilliant, desperate move. If you were in her shoes, standing on a freezing deck with your beloved pet, wouldn't you try to smuggle them out? I know I would. Another survivor was son Yat-sen, the Pekingese owned by Henry Sleeper Harper. Yes, he was named after the Chinese revolutionary. Harper, a wealthy media tycoon, simply carried the dog onto Lifeboat 3. According to maritime historians analyzing the lifeboat capacity, there was plenty of room on that specific boat, so no human life was sacrificed for the dog, but it still sparks controversy today. But what happens next will surprise you. Because while the small dogs were being smuggled to safety, the owners of the larger dogs were facing a much darker realization. Tragic goodbyes on the deck. This is the part they didn't tell you in the movies. As the situation became desperate, someone, it's unclear who, went down to F deck and released the dogs from their kennels. Imagine the chaos. The ship is tilting, people are screaming, and suddenly, a pack of confused, terrified dogs comes running up the slanted deck. It's a scene that creates a knot in my stomach. You have chaos, fear, and these loyal animals looking for their masters. Captain Smith, the man in charge of the entire ship, reportedly had a Russian wolfhound on board. There is no record of that dog making it onto a boat. Personal commentary here. I can't imagine the gut-wrenching pain of looking into your dog's eyes, knowing you have to let go of the leash. It's a level of helplessness that is terrifying. And for the owners of the larger breeds, the Great Danes, The Airedales, there was no hiding them under a coat. They had to look their companions in the eye and say goodbye. Forever. The millionaires who stayed behind. We often hear about the rich buying their way out, but there were millionaires who chose love over life. This is the story that always gets to me. Anne Elizabeth Isham was a wealthy passenger who had brought her Great Dane along. When she was told the dog was too big for the lifeboat, she didn't argue. She didn't try to bribe the crew. She simply stepped out of the lifeboat. She chose to stay. According to later reports from the recovery ship, the Mackay Bennett, a woman's body was found floating in the water days later. Her arms were frozen around the neck of a large dog. It's a horrific image, but also profoundly beautiful in a tragic way. It creates this powerful social proof of the bond between humans and animals, that for some, a dog isn't property. It's family. If that doesn't prove that love transcends survival instinct, I don't know what does. The Legend of Rigel. Now, we have to talk about Rigel. This is where history blurs with legend, but it's a story that was widely reported in newspapers like the New York Herald right after the sinking. Rigel was a massive black Newfoundland dog belonging to First Officer Murdoch. The story goes that Rigel was swimming in the freezing water looking for his master. A lifeboat drifted dangerously close to the propeller of the rescue ship Carpathia. The crew couldn't see the lifeboat in the dark, but they heard Rigel barking. His bark supposedly alerted the Carpathia's captain, saving the people on that boat. Is it 100% fact? Historians debate it. But does it matter? It represents the spirit of these animals. Even in the face of death, they were trying to protect. It's the kind of heroism that makes you want to hug your own dog a little tighter right now. The ultimate sacrifice for love. When we look back at Titanic, we obsess over the jewelry, the band, and the ship itself. But the story of these 12 dogs teaches us something deeper about humanity. It forces us to ask, what do we value most when the end comes? For 3 lucky dogs, it was a miracle escape. For the others, it was a cold, dark end in the Atlantic. But they didn't die alone. They died with the people who meant the world to them. It's a heavy topic, I know, but remembering them keeps their loyalty alive. So next time you look at your pet, just take a second to appreciate them. Because history shows us that when the world falls apart, they are the ones who stay by our side until the very end. If you found these stories as moving as I did, make sure to follow the channel. We dig up the history that others forget. And tell me in the comments, if you were on the Titanic, would you have tried to smuggle your pet onto the lifeboat? Be honest. Applying just one insight from the loyalty of these Titanic dogs could change how you look at your own best friend forever. Don't let their stories sink back into the dark. Hit that like button to keep history alive and subscribe to Dr.DogPedia for more untold truths. Let me know in the comments, would you have broken the rules to save them? See you in the next one!